What's up, everybody? This is Lawrence ThaMyind Berment. I am here with Steve on the Learn to Produce podcast.
Great. Welcome. You have got such a history behind you. But before we get into the music, I have to ask you, what inspired you? You were with TEDx and the transition into the music business on that.
Well, TEDx kind of just came up from me being in the tech world. So what a lot of people don't know about me is that I started in the tech world. I still work in the tech world as a consultant, but music is a passion. So I've always tried to tie the two together. And I worked a lot with an artist named Malik Yousef, who is a poet who writes for Kanye West and his good music team. So I had an opportunity to do a lot of visuals and manage the music production and the music director side of things for our TEDx Tech Talk. So it was like hand in hand, it's music and it's tech and it's my wheelhouse. So it just kind of fell into place.
When you talk about tech, what is your thoughts on the whole new AI that's out everywhere and, from producing and writing and you name it, it can do it these days, create new instruments. Are you using any of that technology?
Definitely. I think AI is definitely not going anywhere. So my approach to it is, how can we leverage it? How can I leverage it at least to be more creative or try something new that I've never tried before? I know a lot of people shy away from it or are afraid of it. But for me, I feel that it's the direction things are going. So how can we leverage it? I don't think it's going to take away from our roles just yet. Maybe not in our lifetime or maybe not in my lifetime. I'm getting old, but I do think it can get there, but are we there yet? No. So I don't think it's something that's a big worry, but definitely learning to leverage it and how to really think outside the box and create new ideas using AI is definitely in the forefront now.
Do you have any favorite tools that you've come across?
I feel like there's always a new one, but there's a couple of like mixing ones that I use. I use UDO a lot. UDO does a lot. It's a lot more capable than people claim it is or think it is, but there's a few that I use. And again, I just kind of dabble. Whenever something new comes out, I use it and see if it makes sense. Some are trash, some are good. I use 11 Labs a lot. I use, there's another one, I think it's called Soundio or something like that, but it's really good for if I just need a reference track, I could sing something myself and use one of their professional singers, upload that, and it literally converts it to as if they were singing it. So, yeah, there's a lot. There's a whole laundry list of them, but again, this just depends on what your needs are and what your goal is, essentially.
Well, you're Grammy and ASCAP nominated producer, best rap record of the year. Tell me about that experience of finding out that you were nominated for best rap record of the year.
Yeah, so the song I produced on the album was originally not going to be on the album. I worked a lot with my best friend, Books the Beast. He's like my brother from another mother. He reached out to me and said, hey, Pusha T's working on his album. You have some stuff or you have anything you want to work on? So we've been sending stuff back and forth. And it was actually 2 years in the making before it actually came out. So the song was originally going to be on the Nigo project called I Know Nigo. One of the songs on the track with Tyler, the Creator, the Pharrell and his team, Lil Uzi. It was a bunch of people on there because it was like that whole hype world, that hype beast kind of style vibe, which Nigo is known for, connecting the music and the fashion. So happens that there was a song that was our song with Pusha T was going to be on the album. I then later found out that he was going to put it on his album, which was pretty heavily anticipated. So that was exciting already. And then it got nominated for a Grammy, and that was like a big thing. I was like, okay, wow, I could say that I've done something in my lifetime that a lot of people have strived to do their whole music career and haven't been able to do it. We didn't win, but I still take it as a win because we lost to Kendrick, in regards to the album. So it was definitely a good thing. And I definitely still leverage that as much as I can as acknowledgement to my abilities and my circle of people who I have in my network. So I'm looking forward to the next one
Absolutely.
and to more
It's there
opportunities.
for your lifetime to take advantage of it. And
Yeah,
don't forget that.
definitely.
I still talk about my platinum and golds from the 80s, so you got time.
Exactly.
uh, you're talking about the collaboration. It sounds like you're going from studio to studio. How do you actually work that you're able to keep it in sync?
To be honest, a lot of my work hasn't been in studios lately. I have like projects that I work on that I prefer that. But nowadays, it's really just been finding a way to balance out, you know, really just blocking time, just balancing out my work schedule from the consulting side, music, which is always what I want to do every day. But, you know, um, in a perfect world, right? But I think just finding that time to really just have balance of like, okay, I know I want to do this from this time to this time, um, and just moving as I need to. And there are times where a session comes up and it's like, hey, Lawrence, we want you to come to the session, and if this makes sense, then I make the time and I do it. And a lot of times it's going to be at night. Most of my clients for consulting's during the day, so the night stuff kind of works out, and it's just my both passions, tech and music. So I just try to find a way to make it work.
Fabulous. How have you incorporated the technology? Have you created your own algorithms to check music or anything with the technology world?
Um, I would say I haven't created anything myself yet. There are some stuff in the works. I would say it's enough to talk about, but ideas that I do have that I'm kind of creating for my own workflow. But it's definitely getting there. Yeah, I do envision having some sort of contribution to the tech piece within the music, whether that's a plugin or a utility that can be used by the masses. That is in the roadmap, definitely for sure.
What kind of DAW do you use?
I am an Ableton guy.
Ah,
I create an
okay.
Ableton, but of course I've touched them all. Pro Tools when I need to, but Ableton is bread and butter for me every day.
So do you use it mainly as like the push to the buttons and the different tracks going down, or you do actually the layout like a typical Pro Tool session?
Yeah, I use it more for the visual. So my start in music was with Sony Acid, which was
Oh,
a
yeah, I
visual
remember having
waveform.
acid.
Yeah, so Acid was kind of like my introduction to a DAW. So I've gotten used to that, and when I saw Ableton, I tried the other ones. I tried Reason, I tried Machine, but Ableton just seemed more familiar and more home.
Hmm.
And it still is. Like I've always tried different things. I tried Fruity Loops for a little while, but yeah, just being able to see the waveform because I'm very visual. Being able to see that waveform helps me be a little bit more efficient with the work.
Do you have any go-to plugins that you like to use in all your sessions?
Yeah. One that I use a lot on my master bus is Master Plan. And that's just a mastering plugin. It's great. It's very similar to God Particle, but I feel like it's a little bit more customizable to certain sounds. I could really tweak it. Um, Another one I use is Fab Filter, of course, for mixing while producing. Um, I use Arturia's plugins all the time. Anna 2, I use a lot for sound design. Of course, Native Instruments are the big runners. Yeah, I mean, there's always more. I use a lot of like random, obscure ones that come through like the Max for Live community to help me kind of do sound design. So it just depends on what's needed. Sometimes I use something just once, I never use it again, and there's those that I really, tie
All
into
right,
every
and a
time.
rough
But
idea, how many plugins do you have in your collection?
I've cleaned up. I had a couple hundred at one point all on my computer. I was like, you know what? Let me move these out to the side. I have the installation files if I need them, but I keep everything on a Dropbox. And that's another thing, like on the tech piece, like Dropbox is a big help. But yeah, I have a lot. But right now I've dumbed it down a bit to what's my main workforce. And if I don't use it for more than a few months, then I kind of get rid of it.
You worked with Kanye West. He is definitely one of the most unique artists out there in his style. How was it building songs with him?
Uh, it's more so of like an assembly line. It's more so like there's a group of people in a room. We're all kind of given assignments. You do what you do, and then we'll come back to like a listening session later. And depending on if it's something he likes, he'll add to it, or like I won't hear like, or sometimes we'll send it in and we don't hear anything about it. And then next, we get a message from his team like, oh, we need stems for XYZ, and send it in. So, I think I've only spent time with him on a handful of times, like in the rooms having conversations, but, it's mostly like a factory more so. And it's very well oiled. Like his process is very efficient, how he runs the shop, how his team runs the shop. So, it's definitely enjoyable. But it's the way I actually run my sessions when I am in the lead or doing like the executive producing of a project. I like to divvy out. It's just efficient. It's like literally running a factory. So, I try to follow from that model. I definitely took from that for sure.
What advice would you have for somebody who's just starting in the business?
I mean, depending on what they're doing, I would say the biggest piece, which I wish I knew earlier, was, don't wait for anyone else, especially as an artist or a producer. We tend to get stuck in the rut of waiting for someone else to give us an opportunity. Um, I, you know, still fall into that sometimes, especially when you're like, oh, there's a big opportunity here. I'm going to focus all my attention on this and like not really push our own agendas and our own wants and needs. Push your ideas, be creative. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Try not to copy anyone else. I also take inspiration from others, but not copy them. But literally just pave your own road. And if you find a big pieces, if you have a circle of people who are around you that support you and can help you create your vision, stick with them through thick and thin, because they will be your day ones when things do take off, for sure.
I read online somewhere that you consult producers and engineers. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, so I still do a lot of one-on-one or just kind of session consulting. People can, reach out to me and inquire about, hey, I'm working on this project. I would like your ear on it. I try to, one of my goals is to become like the Rick Rubin, the next Rick Rubin.
Mm-hmm.
Just being someone that not necessarily has to touch every production, but because again, being a producer, we have a hard time not wanting to add something. We tend to get lost in adding something. I've learned to just let things be. If it's good, it's good, but just kind of give that direction of where it should go and what I envision, or what, again, understanding what their vision is and helping them bring their vision to light more than me putting what I want to put on their vision itself.
When mixes are being done, some young producers and artists want to do like 50 mixes on it. How do you handle a situation like that?
At the end of the day, I think most of the time when it comes to me, because of my background and people, I guess they hold me to a higher standard at some point. Once a lot of times when I do say, hey, this is pretty good, I don't think you need too much more. Most people tend to listen, but again, people get demoitis and they get stuck in this like, oh, it needs to be better. I always tell them, let the plugins do the science for you, right? It's like you could put in, if you're trying to get a sound like something, you put it in some sort of analyzer, and if your frequencies match the frequencies of that target, sound, then you're good. If it sounds good in your car, if it sounds good on your earbuds and everything, you could take forever nitpicking at every little thing. The average listener will not hear those things. As long as it sounds good, have a listening group that's not music people and use them as reference. That's usually how I get around, demoitis and just diving into something and mixing it a billion times and just ending up with a worse result than you were when you started.
One of the changes that I see in the music business is vinyl is coming back. Do you think that's going to have an impact on producers going back in and doing analog music?
I mean, I never stop. I still do vinyl to this day. I think for those who are true to the sound, because you could never emulate vinyl thoroughly. You can do vinyl like dirt and noise added to a track, but something about the warping and the warmth of an actual vinyl record. And again, it depends on the demographic you're talking to, right? The young kids, unless they're like audiophiles, they don't really care. They just want the sample and they're going to chop it up and clean it up anyway. But, for guys like me and guys that really love the history of it, and there's a therapy inside of digging through a crate and looking at the album and having inspiration by just looking at the album cover or looking at the back of the album and seeing all the musicians and the instruments used in it. That's what I look for and why it's never gone away. But I don't think it'll ever go away as long as there's a record player available, because you can never, even if you digitize it, you can never beat that sound of getting it straight from the vinyl. So I don't see it going away. There's always a resurgence of music and technology. Like, for instance, like the Polaroid. Polaroid is coming back heavy, which we thought was going to be gone. So I definitely see that vinyl might be something, especially with the audiophiles and the creators who value it, for sure.
I see it as a bigger profit stream for independent artists now versus having to go out there and, on the deep, getting on one of the services is playing music and making very little money. They can sell a record for $10.99. They're doing better than what they would have had for, 2,000 or 3,000 plays. So I see a big surge of that happening back again in the music business.
Yeah, definitely.
And the idea of the colored disc and pictures that have been embedded into it, I think it's going to bring back something that we haven't seen since like the 70s when the Raspberries came out, that they actually incented the sound of raspberries in the album. Yeah. And I was at Amoeba, and we picked up one of the Raspberries original albums, and it still smells like raspberries after all these years. So I think that, those collector items are going to be a big profit margin for the independent artists.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Merch is everything. Most artists now, big or small, are making their money from touring and merch, right? So you could add that to your merch lineup and make it, like you said, something really special that will appeal to people. And again, it's way better than making, pennies on the dollar, streaming at this point. And they're looking to try to change that again. So we'll see.
Fantastic. Where can people find you?
They can find me online. I'm a homebody, but anyone needs me, they can Google me. My contacts come up. I'm always available via email or Instagram. I'm pretty active on my Instagram in regards to responding to people. It is me. It's not a actual AI, not just yet. I think Instagram is the best way, or email info@ThaMyind, ThaMyind.com.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you being here today. You've given some great insights on your past and things for people to, snag some ideas.
Yeah, definitely.